Oh, I know that Austin here was actually really looking forward to this topic tonight. So, do you happen to be dealing with a downright a-hole-ish person in your life right now?
Could have wrote this one.
So, a Stanford professor, Robert Sutton, has just written a book called The A-Hole Survival Guide. And I'm not saying the whole word, obviously. And it's just for you to check out, right?
Yeah.
Not just you, I'm saying to the people. But according to the Daily Mail, Robert Sutton has spent more than 10 years of his career studying a-holes and how people can get rid of them from their lives and workplaces. While these types of people can thrive in a workplace, it can be difficult for them to get work done after they have belittled everyone around them. Sutton recommends people to increase physical distance from these people to avoid exhibiting similar behavior. And he goes into what kind of a-holes there actually are. So there are 4 types of jerks, and Sutton has a 3-step tactic to avoid them. The 4 types in this world are the Machiavellian.
I'm just watching your mouth right now. And I can tell you're directing this at me.
I'm not.
Hey, do these sound familiar to you?
Well, you can tell me which one.
I'll let you know which one I am if you like. I'm probably a mix of about all 4 of them.
So, Machiavellianism in modern psychology is someone that is focused on self-interest and personal gain. These people take pleasure in someone else's pain as it helps them reach their own goals in life. Sutton described this person as nasty to a person's face and not afraid to show that behavior. The Machiavellian type doesn't hide from their behavior. Instead, they embrace it because they think it is what is helping get them to where they want to be. So they take advantage of it, basically.
Yeah.
They embrace it.
It's called bully.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that fits that description.
That was me. Want to keep going?
Want
to end it here?
Let's see. Dude, maybe transitioned. You're transitioning a-hole, yeah? So we have the backstabber. This, I think, probably lends more to the opposite sex. I'm just going to throw it out there because guys, it's typical with guy situations. Like if you're really that pissed off at someone, you go at it, you have a beer, you're done. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the backstabber. The backstabber is more strategic about how, and we don't think about things through. So it's not us. It's I'm going to throw that out there. About how they're an a-hole to others because they don't always want to be portrayed as one. They are more strategically competent a-holes, Sutton said. They kiss up and knock down people around them. Sutton said that backstabbers can be the most dangerous because they pretend they are on your side for as long as possible before they no longer need you.
I feel like a backstabbing in the a-hole is pretty much the worst one you could get right there.
Well, let's keep going. The night is young on this one. The purposefully oblivious. So this person acts as if they don't know someone when they actually do. Instead of acknowledging a person, they pretend that they have no idea who they are in order to belittle them as much as possible. This type of a-hole might not think they are being one because they aren't saying anything, but their lack of acknowledgement speaks volumes. Sutton explained that power can make people feel like they are above others and therefore think they are allowed to behave this way. Hierarchy.
I was going to say, have you ever worked for someone before? That's your boss.
You are absolutely right.
That is your boss.
Oh, I can name names right now on the... Not my current boss. Actually, my current boss is awesome, but...
my last job, I had to be the first one to get that guy's attention. I don't know if this is fair.
I'll actually tell you a funny story. I almost feel like it falls squarely into a millennials type of mentality and everything, but I felt I totally deserved it, the way I approached it. My boss at one point in time, and I won't say where it was, I brought my part of the company from $35,000 a year in revenue to over $250,000. And that was the reason through those steps I became the manager of that department. Right? And this new person came in without a background even in this type of job. And she just belittled me at every opportunity and just made my job increasingly difficult. At one point in time, she restructured the commission structure I was on that was already signed over that I was on, right? And essentially cut a quarter of my yearly salary off from me, right? And when it came time, I had to get out of there. I was just under so much stress all the time coming home from it. And when I went in to quit, we went in for it was her and the COO who I actually got along with very well. I was actually hoping that he could just pull me under his wing and not have I wouldn't have to deal with her.
What was her title?
She was the president.
President. Okay.
Yeah. And when I sat down, I literally looked at her across the table. I put my phone down. I said, "I'm recording this conversation." And she said, "Why would you do that?" I said, "Because I don't trust you to tell the owner of this company what went down here and why I'm quitting and my exit report on this, my exit interview." And she's like, "Well, why don't you trust me?" I looked at her. I said, "Really?" You know what I mean?
Is that right?
Come on, really? And I said, "Here's what we're going to do. You're going to sit there and keep your mouth shut while I tell you why exactly I'm leaving. And I'm going to tell you everything on why I'm leaving, go through numbers and show you everything so that he hears it, the owner hears it, and everything else. I don't want you to open your mouth. And when I'm done, I'm just going to get up, take my things, and go out to my car. It's already packed up with all my stuff." You know, and that probably was a pretty typical millennial thing to do as far as like, you know, trying to grasp that hierarchy and pull yourself up just to be a jerk about it. But it was kind of good payback.
I don't think that's like a typical millennial thing to do. I think that's just people. Like, it's one of those things where, to me, that's standing up for yourself. Like, at the end of the day, if you take so much crap, like, eventually somebody, I got friends that I look at that I'm like, I don't want to be the guy that's eventually gonna bust that dude's bubble because he's gonna someone up real bad. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Here's the crazy thing. On my door, it said manager of blank department because I don't want to give away where I was working at the time. And in that meeting, I said, you know, I just honestly, I don't feel like you treat me like a manager. I'm overseeing this department and everything, and I'm making it happen. She said, "That's because you're not a manager." I said, "Well, that's news to me because it says it on my door, and I've held that title now for 2 years." "Nope, not as far as I'm concerned."
Is that right?
Oh, you. Yeah. Okay.
I'm just gonna start notching this belt up now.
I'm not saying who you are, but you are. You fall under the purposefully oblivious category. So I know she's friends with some of the people I have on Facebook. So let's go with the clueless a-hole. Actually, to be honest with you, I think she's fitting in all these categories. So. This person doesn't even realize that they are acting horrible to someone unless it is pointed out to them. Sutton, this guy that wrote this book, said it's best for people to surround themselves with those who are not afraid to tell them if they're acting like an a-hole. But most importantly, it is on each and every person to recognize their own actions and how it can be perceived by others. Good?
I should tell you the story of when me and Austin first met.
Now go ahead.
That's probably, I don't even know which category this falls under. What was the first one?
It's a little bit of the first and the last.
Yeah. Essentially, you're trying to say that Austin is an
can be.
Former. I'm working on it. Work in progress.
So my wife Taylor, she's working at the restaurant in Boston's. And I'm just coming up for the weekends at this point. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm working till 10. It's like 7 o'clock. Just go down and hang out with my family." I'm like, "All right." So Austin and his buddy are on the couch, and I get there, and I was working at a finance company then, and obviously I knew that Austin's a vet, so you know. First thing came to my mind was thank him for serving the country. They go, you know,
it was Veterans Day too. That's the worst part. Like, it was a day you should be thanking us.
So I look at him. I'm just like, "Hey man, I just want to thank you for serving our country and risking your life for us." And he goes, "Don't say that to me," like in a dead straight face. And I'm like, he goes, "Do I thank you for crunching numbers at work?" And I'm like, could be a little bit of a difference there. And it's like,
"You're saving the company dollars."
And so we're just sitting there in silence. I'm like, this is awkward.
It was rough. I was rough on Chris.
That's kind of your job to do.
It was not. I mean, at the thing, like I look back at it now, and it's one of those things. I think I said it to. Was it you? I said it to the other day, or maybe it was my dad. But I said it to one of them. I was sitting down thinking about. I was thinking about the whole NFL thing, and in my head, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have been such an a-hole to Chris, because like that's what we're fighting for now. At the time, I'm like, don't thank me for like, and at the same time, like, I'm just trying to be hard on him. Like, obviously, I gotta like, you know what I mean. And when I'll be the first one to admit, when I first met Chris, I hated him. I wanted to choke him. I met him in a basketball game, and if you know anything about Chris, like he is literally the backyard champion of the world. All right, like he's that guy that will go home and whatever flavor equates you're playing. He's gonna go home a loser, but he's gonna come back and kick us the next time. You know what I mean?
Learn from the mistakes.
But yeah, like I met him in a basket. He was playing a basketball game. We were all playing a basketball game together, and like he was just playing so hard. And it was like, you know, mixed gender and stuff. I'm like, yo, why ain't that serious? So, but Chris he's about winning, man. Like he's champion. He's got the belt. He wants a shot at the title every time. And I remember thinking in my head, you know, this guy, there's something wrong with him. And then like 2 months later, he's in my living room thanking me for my service. I'm like.
So were you up in the area here because of his sister?
Yes. No. So I came back. A good friend of mine. He's I'm from Westchester, so he went to Westchester. He said, "Come back and hang out in Schnecksville for the weekend." And we put open gym, basketball, just like a random weekend. That's how I met Taylor. So yeah,
he's just a really serious open gym player. Yeah. And I remember walking out of the gym thinking that guy is you know what I mean? Next 2 months later, he's in the living room. I'm like, come on, man.
All right, so let's talk about how we can actually avoid these types of people in life. Create physical distance. So one of the most reliable ways to become an a-hole is to be around them. So it's kind of like it's the old saying.
You are
parents.
The company.
Yeah, or when parents say, "Show me your friends, I'll show you who you are," type thing. You know. He recommends first creating physical distance from the people around you who exhibit toxic behavior. Previous research has shown people are more likely to exhibit horrible behavior of their own in the workplace if they are within a 25-foot radius of a toxic person. I think it's good advice. I don't know how much control you would have as an employee over it. I mean, you could request being moved somewhere else, but... Man, some of those cubicles are tight.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, getting 25.
Thank God I'm on a roof all day without anybody.
Did this guy just promote a safe zone? That's what he just did. He just promoted
workplace safe zone.
Get him danger zone.
I think how I've handled these people in the past is I just try to outthink them. They have no idea, like, I know what's going on, but like I'm so far ahead of you, you don't even understand it. Like kind of like you do with your boss. So I mean, it's like you just outthink them, and it's like for the people that are oblivious on purpose, you're oblivious back while doing it so vague that it's like you're doing it back to them while you know they're doing it to you, but you're making it seem so nonchalant that they don't even know what's going on.
If you can joke with them,
exactly,
and make fun of them without them realizing
exactly,
it, and not
that's huge.
Yeah, because what will happen is they'll be a jerk to you, they'll laugh it off, and then they'll go home and be like, man, they got me there.
It's true.
I'm the idiot.
You shall think them.
So you can also, number 2 here is alter your perspective. So the second solution to the problem is to reframe the mind's mental thoughts to help protect oneself. People can do this by finding humor in the situation or feeling sad for the person who feels the need to act that way. So it's kind of like the situation. If as long as you're not being completely bullied and battered down every day, that you physically feel it, and that happens. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, honestly, that was that situation. Like I just came home exhausted, and it wasn't even like it's just mentally draining sometimes, you know. But if you can up that game and have fun with it, and realizing that they're that type of person, yeah.
I tell you what, the toughest part about that is, in kind of like you being in like a middle management position, you know where that goes.
Oh yeah,
to the people below you. And that's where then you start looking like, I mean, my last job, I was working 110 hours a week, killing myself to try and, you know, produce what needed to be produced. And the people above me were just laying on me so hard to do everything. Anytime there's like call outs or anything like this, that, the other thing. And I finally, like, I got to a point where like, it was like, I got to the point where it's like, don't make me even put my boots on, because if I got to walk out on that floor, I'm going to lose my mind.
What was that?
Like I was in a position where I went from.
Can you say what you were doing or no?
No, I don't care. Really, honestly, God, I mean, I was working at Nestle, and I was in a middle management position there, like, you know, running the night shift and stuff. And I mean, he'll attest to it. You didn't see me. What was I working? 110 hours. When did you see me?
Yeah.
You didn't.
That's crazy.
You didn't. I was constantly at work. If somebody called out or whatever, I had to go in there, redo a schedule, because nobody apparently in the rest of this plan knew how to redo a schedule. And like, you don't know how to fill in a box. Like, I didn't even know how to work a computer at the time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, all right, Excel, I can do this. I can pull this off. You know, like dirt to dirt. You know what I'm saying?
Austin, what are you doing in there? I'm working on the schedule. That's a calculator. Get back out on the floor.
I got highlighter all over my screen. I'm like, I can't get them to come out yellow. You know what I mean? Like, but it got to a point where like they were laying on me so hard to do so much that, you know, it was like with you, like it got to the point where I realized like I was pushing that on the people that were below me. And like I had to like take a step back and be like, you know, what am I really doing here? Am I happy with what I'm doing? And I mean, I'm the first one to admit it. I eventually got so upset with the situation of an individual calling off like on a Tuesday for 4 weeks straight at the same time telling me their sister had a heart attack. These are doctors. They get good money to go in there once. You know?
Listen, call them on Monday nights. Okay, don't let your sister go to the Krispy Kreme. Okay? Let's just keep her away from her.
I need you to keep your sister away from the McDonald's deep fryer tomorrow, because if you leave, I have to ask all these other people that come to work every Tuesday at 10 o'clock to cover 2 positions or 2 machines, which is at that point, it's not even the fact of having to make them cover. I'm asking you to do twice the work and get paid the same amount.
Yep.
And morality in me, it pisses me off. Because I knew what it was like to have to work to pick up other people's things. And once in a while is okay. But when you continue to do it, not only are you putting other people out, but you're pissing off the other 5,400, whatever people it is on the floor, because they're constantly picking up your slack.
You know, I'll be honest with you and say with absolute certainty, I have never been the person that allowed someone's negativity to rub off on me that it rubbed off onto the people below me at all. But that's not to say it didn't affect me. Like the people that worked either beside me or with me on projects and everything, I never actually was a manager over people. It was more like I managed a department where I used other departments to get my projects done and I had to work with them and everything. They could just see the effect it was having on me. You know what I mean? You can only bottle stuff up for so long.
And that's what they said to me. It makes you unapproachable. And that's where I got. I got to a point where I was just unapproachable because I was like my eyes were like they didn't have any whites in my eyes anymore. Like every day I was just like, you know, it's like what you're waiting for the next shot. You know what I mean? That's a horrible feeling in life in general. Just waiting for where the next hook's going to come from, and it always comes, and you never see it. You know it's coming.
You got to have some sort of. If you can't get out of the situation, you have to have some sort of release. You know what I mean? I
spent 2 hours a day in a gym.
Yeah.
Didn't help.
Yeah. Wouldn't help me either. That just stressed me out more. So I'm a fat ass.
And I loved it. Like, I'd walk in, I'd go and lift my ass. I'd walk in and like a little bulldog. Like I couldn't even wipe my ass. You know what I mean? But I was still angry for some reason. I was like, why are you so angry? Like, I don't know.
So number 3, kill him with kindness, he says. His final suggestion is changing that person so that they are on your side instead. Flattery and kissing their butt does seem to work. Turning the hater into a friend makes it harder for them to be rude towards you. Sutton also mentioned the Benjamin Franklin effect, a psychological phenomenon that helps when handling the haters, end quotes there. This is where someone does little favors for...
This guy went from Ben Franklin to haters. There's nothing in between
quite
there.
The sentence there. So this is where someone does little favors for someone who is mean to them and is purposefully nice. The phenomenon finds the receiver of these favors is likely to continue to return the favor then over time.
I think it just goes back to what I was saying before. It's along the line. It's like it's a chess game.
Yeah,
in a sense.
Yeah.
It's like I know what you're trying to do, but you don't know what I'm trying to do to counteract it. It's kind of funny.
And by the way, if you're listening to these traits and you're having a hard time figuring out who the a-hole is in your group, chances are you're probably the one.
I'm well aware of it. I'm still. I feel like that's
so. It actually goes on. He said? What
self-awareness is key.
He said, "What happens if you actually find out that you happen to be the a-hole?" He said he's found a combination of reasons for why people turn towards the nasty behavior. These include the inequality of power and wealth seen in the workplace, exhaustion, and role models who act like a-holes. All of the above can be triggers for someone to start acting horribly to others. The most reliable way to find yourself behaving in a rude way is by surrounding yourself with others who act similarly. If you're an a-hole and a winner, you're still a loser in my book, he said, which is a good way.
That's 100% true.
Yep. He recommends for people to take responsibility for their behavior and alter it slowly to create a better environment for those around them, which is actually kind of interesting that they said this, because your videos that you do, you're used to cursing.
Oh, yeah.
It's a part of your language. And it's not that you
don't have to watch your mouth, me.
No. It's a behavior trait, and look, I can't lie. I'm guilty of it too in my private life. It's something I've felt like I've worked on for years. My wife would tell you I am not working on it, but I really do.
I go in spurts.
But the thing is, I told you when you came on the podcast, I don't allow cursing. Number one, I'm going onto an internet radio station that's a clean station. And number two, if you do, I got to edit into a beep. All right. And the way you talk, this podcast won't be going up until next month. This is going to be beeping like crazy.
You think somebody's dying in the background?
Yeah.
Just flatlining.
So, but that being said, so let me just read this last part here again real quick. He recommends for people to take responsibility for their behavior and alter it slowly to create a better environment for those around them. And you sent me a personal message yesterday or this morning. And you said, you told me this last week, and for the last week I've been trying to train myself to not say those words in anticipation of being on your podcast.
Well, yeah.
Right? So it takes work. It takes training. It takes you to acknowledge what's going on and take responsibility for it is exactly what he's saying and what you said.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said before, that's kind of what I push in my whole thing. Self-responsibility. And I always say, like, if you want to get anywhere, lead by example. Yep. But this also was a huge opportunity for me to come in and show that I can get through an educated conversation with someone without dropping the F-bomb every 15 seconds. And it's not that it's an impossibility for me, but if you look at where I came from, like the military, okay, the Marine Corps, I will tell you right now, the F word is a comma.
Yeah.
Like I can describe to you exactly what's happening and not use any other word, just pauses.
Oh yeah, like it acts as a verb and noun and everything else.
It's everything. Beep beep thing over there is beep 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 beep, and that's it. And the problem is, like, it's such a part of that culture.
Yeah, it's hard to...
This guy next to me knows what I'm talking about, so there's no reason to stop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you come out and you walk into normal, like, everyday society, and it's a very tough thing to turn off. Yeah. And I've learned how to turn it off when I need to. Like, obviously, I've held jobs in life and done things. I can turn it off when I have to. But my thing is like, when I'm speaking for myself and how I feel on something, I do take the general pattern approach on certain things that if I wanted to get through, cuss, because it sticks. Because even if you don't hear anything else, you heard me. He just used foul language. Okay, good. You heard that. Now listen to the rest.
Yeah. Well, actually, to be honest with you, I have a kind of a personal story to this that, I just said I was working on it for years and everything. And then my last job, I was working at a car dealership. And this guy, my manager, I mean, if they're not cursing at you, they're not talking, you know? And they're just beating you down every day. Yeah. Your numbers aren't good enough. You could sell 25 cars in one day. And he's like, why didn't you sell 26? You know what I mean? And it's just like rude, nasty talking every day. And I would come home and she would hear it. It would naturally roll off my tongue because I was in the environment. And that goes back to them saying that if you're around toxic people, you're going to absorb that toxic nature of them and project that in those environments, and it's going to follow you,
Oh, yeah.
So that's something that...
I find that ironic, though, because I've always been better, like in my professional life, my mouth has always been better than my home life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing.
Unfortunately, this was a flip situation where they encouraged it there, and it was...
it was congratulations, you served.
Yeah.
Now you understand a little aspect of what that's like.
Well, the good news is I got to drive around Maseratis and a Lamborghini and a Ferrari. I mean, so it had
I don't understand what you're cussing about.
Well, a little F driving down the road honking the horn, may have been a little well-deserved at the time.
I earned this.
I'll tell you what, best... my dad's an engineer and works on cars all his whole life. We go to car shows. We go up to New York, the Javits Center almost every year for the New York City Car Show. We see these like exotic cars, and you just think to yourself like, "Oh my gosh, what is that like?" And the one day last summer, I get to drive from in this area here. A lot of people may not know, but Tillman Street, there by the Kmart, right? And movie theater, down to the Sands in Bethlehem, Ferrari California T out there, and then a Lamborghini Huracan all the way back. And my dad, who's grown up with the craziest experiences with cars and stuff, he has never had that kind of opportunity. Now, it kind of felt good to say, guess what I drove today?
Winning.
Oh, I wish I could have had him along with me, because that would have been a dream come true for him. So, okay, so we're pretty much, what do we got here? Oh, we're talking about, he said, if you're an a-hole and a winner, you're still a loser in my book. So he recommends that people take responsibility for their behavior. He recognizes that sometimes people can fall into the trap of acting like a jerk in order to avoid one in their own life. So kind of hedging that bet that you're going up against someone, you know. But reacting to people negatively doesn't always yield the best results, because they can take over your personal life, you know.